What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props, where I go over all of my bets placed for this weekend's UFC card. And this weekend, we have the big pay-per-view UFC 285, Jon Jones returning at long last, up a weight class at heavyweight to challenge Cyril Gane for the heavyweight championship. Co-main event is a championship bout as well between the reigning defending women's flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko as she takes on the Mexican challenger Alexa Grasso. An amazing fight card from top to bottom for Saturday, and we still have 14 fights scheduled for this card, so I'm just hoping that they all stay intact as best as possible through the weigh-ins on Friday. Right now I've got 10 bets on this card, 4 money lines, 2 favorites, 2 underdogs, 1 parlay, 2 main props, and like 3 just sprinkles on high payout props, some long shots at the end. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let's break into the first money line. But again, I'm going to be kind of concise on this video. I try to make it a shorter format for this one. Check out the full card breakdown I did on Monday for any real details. And also my live streams I did on Tuesday with Dale from Punchlist MMA, or last night's live stream with my co-host Couch Warrior podcast, The Panel, with Ben the Bane Davis and Uncle Weezy. Those are awesome, so check those out. And my first money line of the card is on Mana Martinez to defeat Cameron Simon. Mana Martinez, I put 1 unit on him at plus 250. Pretty decently sized underdog, which I find very strange. This money line is, I think, a little askew because Cameron Simon was actually in his debut against a short notice opponent in Steven Kozlow off the regionals. Simon was a minus 275 over that guy a couple months ago, and the guy actually gave him a little bit of trouble in round 1 with the grappling. Ultimately, Simon found a round 3 TKO when he needed it, but to open up Cameron Simon, at least give him the minus 300 price tag over Mana Martinez, I think is ridiculous. When this is a much bigger step up in competition, you've got the more powerful man in Mana Martinez, the bigger man, the guy with the better experience in the UFC so far, and pre-UFC, I would say. You know, Martinez has scored 8 knockouts out of his 10 wins. He's very dangerous, good spinning back fists, Superman punches, just the explosive techniques from the MMA striking. Cameron Simon, a little bit more of a technical kickboxer, but Martinez has... You know, he's shown very good resiliency so far as well. Something that I have not seen from Cameron Simon at 22 years old and a 7-0 record. There's a little bit of, battle testing to be done for Cameron Simon. This could be a good spot for him if he could outpoint his way to a decision. But Martinez could just as easily, win the more eye-catching shots for each round. If Cameron Simon scores a, point-fighting type of performance for a minute or two, and then Martinez cracks him and drops him, as he's been known to do to people. I mean, that could win the round right there. So I'm going to take Martinez at these odds. I think the line should be a lot closer. So 1 unit to possibly win 2.5 on Mana Martinez. Moving up the card to middleweight, I've got Marc-Andre Barriault to defeat Julian Marquez. I paid 1.5 units at minus 129 on Marc-Andre to get this one done. I just think he's got a lot more ways to win this fight, and he's got a lot longer to win the fight as well. I really don't see much to be impressed with the cardio of Julian Marquez. I think this guy is pretty dangerous early. I will give him the power advantage in this fight, and I'll give him the grappling and the submission potential as well. He does have 3 submissions and 6 knockouts. 100% finish rate over his 9 wins for Marquez, but man, the knockout potential is fleeting the further this fight goes along. And I think Marc-Andre Barriault, with his technical striking, his forward pressure, and he's had more success with the wrestling, and we've seen that takedown defense of Marquez not be the greatest. I think there's a lot of ways that Marc-Andre can stay in the face of Marquez, catch him over swinging, and just tire him out. And after that 1.5 round mark, I think Marc-Andre's got a good chance of finishing this fight late by TKO or winning a decision here. So I'm taking Marc-Andre. Again, neither guy here has got the best record in the UFC. They're both coming off of losses, but I've seen more than I like to win minutes from Marc-Andre Barriault. And the takedown defense, the clinch work, just the general striking output and form as the fight goes on. Give me Marc-Andre here to get this job done. Moving along to women's flyweight, I do have another underdog shot here on Viviane Araújo to defeat Amanda Ribas. I paid just 1 unit on Araújo at plus 104. And even though she's 36 years old, she still looks very athletic, very powerful, and the better technical striker, I think, is what differentiates these two women's skill set the most. Both of them are BJJ black belts. Amanda Ribas does have the judo background as well to get this fight to the mat, but so far Araújo has been very good in the UFC at staying on her feet. Grapplers like Montana De La Rosa, Alexis Davis, Roxanne Modafferi have all struggled to get Araujo to the ground and hold her there. And Araujo was coming off of a 5-round headlining Fight Night card back in the fall where she lost the decisive but competitive 5-round decision to Alexa Grasso, who is now challenging on this very same card for a championship. And overall, I mean, I like the power. I like the technique of the striking of Araujo. Even though Ribas might be attempting more output, I think she will get countered. I don't like the striking defense flaws I see from Ribas here. So I'm taking Araujo pretty confidently here. And she does even win minutes in the ground, too. She averages a couple of takedowns per 15 minutes over a decent sample size. So give me Araujo as another underdog pick on this card. My final money line is up on the main card. Lightweight bout, I've got Mateusz Gamrot to defeat Jalen Turner. Minus 175 on the money line. I got 2 units down on Gamrot at that price. One of the first bets that I placed on this card last week. And it's a really tough spot for both guys here, right? Because you've got Gamrot coming in on short notice against a genetic freak in Jalen Turner, who's 6'3", a long reach at lightweight. He towers over everybody. But on the Turner side, this sucks because he was going to face a fellow striker in Dan Hooker. Now he's taking on Gamrot, who is a championship level submission wrestling threat, double champ in KSW, a lot of experience, 21 wins, 2 losses for Gamrot, and never been finished in any of those. In fact, he's finishing at least half of those bouts, going to decision in 9 victories and 2 defeats. And one of those defeats was just against Beneil Dariush. So the level of competition for Gamrot, who narrowly beat Arman Tsarukyan last year in a main event spot over 5 rounds, showed good cardio, good striking, and very good grappling as well. Gamrot's going to get this fight to the mat. He's going to nullify that size difference, nullify any striking difference, and I really do think that Jalen Turner's striking output, namely the kicks, might be stifled to avoid getting taken down and controlled. So I'm not sure if Gamrot finishes this fight. He may well just give Jalen Turner his 3rd decision loss. So I'm on the Gamrot side, pretty confident at that minus 175. Not so confident where that money line is at now, but Jalen Turner, maybe inside the distance would be the way to play him. I'm not quite sure. I do see the side. It's a short notice bout for Gamrot. I could see why people are on the big plus money for a guy who's got the youth and all of the size advantages. But I'm going to side with experience and the grappling threat of Gamrot here. So those are the money lines. I do have one chalky parlay here with 2 very confident fighters. That is Valentina Shevchenko to retain her flyweight championship, her 8th title defense. Alexa Grasso is very tough. She is very skilled, but she is a striker, and that is feeding right into the the strength of Valentina Shevchenko, who almost lost her belt last time we saw her against Taila Santos. But that's because Taila Santos had size, strength, and the grappling to really put Valentina in harm's way for 3 of those rounds before Valentina came back and managed to steal that split decision just very narrowly. Unfortunately, none of those attributes that really put her in jeopardy there exist from Alexa Grasso, who's got the boxing. She's I believe she'll be very tough in this spot as well. I'm not sure if Shevchenko even gets her out of here, but Shevchenko should use the grappling here and exploit that weakness from Grasso and win. I've got Shevchenko parlayed with Shavkat Rakhmonov, 3rd fight down from the top on this card, to defeat Jeff Neal. And I understand that the money line is ridiculous because this bout had opened up earlier in the year. It got postponed, so they saw where all that money went. A lot of us liked Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's 16-0, all finishes, 8 subs, 8 knockouts. Guy doesn't make really any mistakes. And we have actually seen him cracked before his UFC career, and he recovered and came back to win a fight where he was in big trouble early. So Jeff Neal, I'm not sleeping on the guy. I think he's very talented. He looks like he was back to his normal self in his last fight, defeating Vicente Luque, the first man to ever put Luque out by strikes. But Shavkat's a different animal, man. I just think the size is going to be a lot here. The youth, the grappling, and the ability to really take this fight and dominate wherever he goes. I would not like him to stand and strike with Jeff Neal, but he does have good weapons at range, some good spinning back kicks and body attacks. He's got a good ability to get the fight into the clinch, get the takedown, and probably lock up a submission here. So further along that point, and I do have 2.5 units there to win 1 at that minus 250 combined parlay odds for that. So Shevchenko and Rakhmonov, minus 250 combined odds, 2.5 units to win 1. So that's the chalky parlay. But I do have a couple of props to go along with each of these fights. One that I like for the Shevchenko Grasso fight would be the fight starts round 3, which on FanDuel I just saw was minus 158 earlier today. So I took that because that is, for a women's flyweight bout, to just see round 3, that's kind of a very good price. And now it's like the skill discrepancy they're figuring in, the finishing potential for Shevchenko, who's finished girls like Jessica Ai pretty early before round 3. Who else? Jessica Andrade, she grounded her, crucifixed her before round 3. But Alexa Grasso should be able to hold her own here, and I don't see her getting put away. I'll be willing to risk that for minus 158. Put 2.5 units on that. To go along with the Jeff Neal Shavkat Rakhmonov prop, I have Shavkat Rakhmonov wins by submission in round 2 at plus 650. This is exactly how Shavkat won his last fight. He does have another one against, who was that against? Michel Prazeres, I think he was a round 2 submission as well. So he's got a habit of really not rushing himself in these fights. If his opponents stay, pretty defensively sound early, and then he wears them out into round 2, he will then lock up that submission, as he did with Neil Magny last time. We saw him round 2, I think 1 second left, he got that guillotine. So a guy who's not rushing things, Jeff Neal, a guy who's going to be very dangerous. You're not going to want to rush in on him too quickly. I think these guys will do some range finding, and eventually in round 2, Shavkat will lock up that guillotine. Probably a club and sub victory, and that's plus 650. I have 0.2 units on that prop. Just going over the remaining props here, I do have Bo Nickel to win by submission over Jamie Pickett. This is a very common play this week because we're all trying to find ways to bet on Bo Nickel, who's everybody's most confident fighter, over Jamie Pickett this week in his debut. Bo Nickel, one of the best wrestlers in the nation, and he came off the Contender Series twice last season, both victories, both within like a minute or less, both by submission. So he's combining that takedown threat, that speed, and he's adding in the grappling experience. And he has been doing those grappling matches as well that we've seen. So I think he's like a purple belt in BJJ at this point. Wrapped up a rear naked choke after getting like a 5-second takedown on his first Dana White Contender Series opponent. Then last time we saw him against Donovan Beard on the final week of the show, and he got a club and sub. He hit him with the left hand and then seamlessly got him into a triangle choke. I think he goes back to that same pattern. Club and subs Jamie Pickett here, and that's minus 145. I did put 1.45 units to win 1 on Bo Nickel by submission. We're all trying to chop down that big money line. The knockout prop is plus money as well. The bookies are making you choose between those. But I'm going to ultimately go with what he's done so far. What he's most comfortable with and what he seems to be getting better at is that BJJ. So we also have a fun matchup between Derek Brunson and Dricus du Plessis. I'm pretty confident Dricus du Plessis wins. I think he's going to use that superior striking to expose that 39-year-old chin of Derek Brunson, which has not been looking great. Every time Derek Brunson stands at range with a powerful striker these days like Kevin Holland, he's getting rocked almost every time he gets touched. Same with Jared Cannonier. Last time we saw him last February, those are round 2 TKO. So I've got round 2 TKO for Dricus du Plessis, just to wear down that gas tank a little bit of Derek Brunson, find his range, and then by round 2 he can exploit that weakness, exploit Derek Brunson, who seems to be a little bit over the hill now at 39 years old. I don't think he plays gatekeeper in this bout, and I think he does get TKO'd in round 2. That's plus 650 for Dricus du Plessis on that prop. I put 2.2 units on that. So on the opposite side of that coin, but the same fight, DraftKings had Derek Brunson wins by round 3 submission at plus 5,000. That is the same odds that they put all of their fights to end by draw most of the time. So I had to put 0.1 units on that to potentially win 5. One thing that we have, just to play contrary to Dricus winning this fight, we have seen Dricus tire out against Brad Tavares in his first decision result. Again, he had a second wind there, but he was still extremely tired and a little bit vulnerable. Same with his last fight against Darren Till. Now, Darren Till was almost put out by TKO, standing TKO in round 1, and Dricus wore himself out, had to really survive. He was getting kind of muscled around, taken down in round 2. He had to come back in round 3 and reverse that position on the ground to get that submission. So we've seen Brunson get a round 3 submission on Darren Till. We've seen Dricus get a round 3 submission on Darren Till. That would come full circle if Brunson got one on Dricus du Plessis at this point. Survived that onslaught early, lets Dricus wear himself out, and then comes back, gets the takedown, maybe gets in full mount, beats his face in, Dricus turns over and gives up that neck. I could see that happening in round 3. Not the craziest thing in the world, the way that a plus 5,000 would suggest. So I had to put at least 0.1 units on that just in case something wild like that happens in this fight. So I like that prop. It was even plus 4,000 on some other books like Bet Online during the week. So those are all of the props, parlay, and money lines that I have played for this card. There are a few that I like that I just didn't get to, namely the Cody Garbrandt by decision over Trevin Jones at plus 450. I like that prop because I think we will see a slower, more measured Cody Garbrandt back at bantamweight after that botched drop down to flyweight where he got knocked out. He's been facing high-level competition at those weight classes, both the flyweight jump and at bantamweight, of course, where he was the champion. This is a spot in Trevin Jones, who is a dangerous counter-striker off of his back foot, as we saw against Bautista, but very low-output striker. It should leave very few attempts to get that knockout over Cody Garbrandt. And Garbrandt might very well just look for the wrestling game plan in this fight as well. We saw flashes of that against Kai Kara-France, against Rob Font, who he survived all 5 rounds against. So I really do think that there's a spot here for Garbrandt to just show he's got the better skill set, better experience, and win that decision safely and soundly and keep his spot on the roster here. The other decision prop I like is in the main event. I like Cyril Gane to get a decision win over John Jones. Younger man, faster man, bigger man with the real heavyweight here. I do like Cyril Gane and all of his advantages. A guy who can finally match the size, reach, and height of John Jones. And it's guys with that stature that have given John Jones all of his tougher tests. Guys like OSP, Thiago Santos, Gustafsson in the first matchup, Dominic Reyes in his last matchup 3 years ago. So it's these guys that can actually match him in all of his attributes that give him trouble. And I think Cyril Gane will just play a very smart fight. Maybe make it a little bit boring and just, kick the legs of John Jones, jab him up from both stances, and just use that lateral movement to keep on circling off the cage and just win the minutes over time. I like that at plus 340 for Cyril Gane to get the decision here. But overall in that match in the main event, I like the overs, the over 2.5, the over 3.5, even the over 4.5. It's scary for a heavyweight fight in 5 rounds, but neither guy has been put out by strikes or finished. So you got to roll with that when you look at how defensively sound and tough these guys are. Aside from Bo Nickel, one of my more confident fighters on this card is Ian Gary. Oddly enough, he is a giant minus 650 favorite over Song Kenan, but Song Kenan is a guy I've just never really been that impressed with, a guy who was on the international cards, and all of his better wins are against guys who have never really been seen or heard from again. So I think Gary kind of follows in the footsteps of Max Payne Griffin, who knocked out Song Kenan cold within 1 round last time we saw Kenan in the octagon almost 2 years ago. Max Griffin really doesn't have that knockout power over anybody he faces, so that was shocking to see him put out Song Kenan cold. I think Gary has the slick enough striking and is powerful and fast enough to do the exact same thing. So I like Gary in round 1 by knockout. Even just playing Gary inside the distance at minus 200, I do like that bet. I think this is a big step down in competition for Ian Gary and maybe a chance for him to, add another notch to his highlight reel on the big stage. So those are all the best bets and props that I have, guys, all 10 of my bets and a couple recommended ones that I like as well, but I did not get to betting-wise. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. Good luck on all of your betting action this weekend. Leave a comment below on some of your better props or betting spots or parlays to make money on this weekend's card. And I will talk to you guys next time. Cheers.